Let me introduce our next speaker, Deb. Deb is currently working as a software engineer at Harness in the community engineering team. He's hacking around the engineered community efforts for Harness. He is presently part of Kubernetes release team where he managed helping the communications. He's very active on the CNCF project and the Slack. He's also a person likes to play around algorithms to make the artwork. Without further ado, take stage is yours.
Hey, hi everyone, and thanks for joining on a Saturday morning. We will be talking about Kubernetes release, Kubernetes deep dive. Why this Kubernetes release deep dive, and why I haven't have a presentation for you. So because the thing is, Humble must be aware about it when it started 1.3, and when we are in today 2020 21.26 release cycle. Lot of things changes. Like I joined community in 2020, and some of the methods that we applied to do some part of the releases have deprecated, and new methods have come up. So every year in KubeCon, talks are being given by SIG release folks into deep dive. This was this presentation, since it has all the broad and depth part of Kubernetes. I chose it. It was given by Stephen Augustus and team in the 2019 KubeCon Europe. A lot of resources and lot of places documentation are there on this release process, and what is unique about this talk is you won't find any talk regarding release engineering and release team both combined together, because it takes a lot of time to explain both, and you would find talks on part of release engineering or part of release team that goes ahead. So without further ado, let's begin. So Kubernetes release cycle, as you could see, this is a quarterly release cycle. Every quarter we have a minor release. Earlier it used to be a 3-month cycle, as you could see here. Now it has turned into a 4-month cycle. And then after a particular release, the patch releases for the minor release continues. And as you could see, if there is work going on, let's say in 1.14, 1.15 begins, but the 1.14 patch releases goes on. Similarly, for the next cycle, and so it follows on. So you could find more information regarding this. Here So this is the recent cycle we have, or the recent changes, recent cadence change. We had 4 months release cycle followed by continuous patch releases. So why this patch releases is important, and why this timeline is important is at certain point of time Kubernetes community decides to put an end of life to a particular minor person. It is not continuously maintained by our community, but if there is a significant CVEs or vulnerable that comes up, we usually do a change, but it's quite rare. So the cadence is actually 14 months at present. So any release that happens, let's say 1.24 happened in January, so it will continue for next January. The 12-month cycle will continue, and last 2 months before the end of life, we just go for any major patch releases and all, and that's it. That's the end of life for us. So it's in this 14-month cycle, you could say, since each cycle takes around 4 months, there is n-3 version is supported in a particular year, or at any. So if you're in 1.26 version, just do n-3, and that is the version supported by our community, and if you get active help, or you could expect some changes into that versioning. So that was about how we do the release cadence and how it is maintained. Next, let's see into what happens, especially in a particular release cycle. So since we had a discussion on CI/CD and all recently, so most of the people I know around, and maybe in this call, might be aware about the end user part of Kubernetes. But the upstream part is similar to any software releases, but it is quite more complex. Given we have 70,000 plus active user at any point of time, every day we merge PRs, and so dev side the build has to run every day. But in prod side, we can't run the build every day and push it to prod. So it happens in a monthly cycle. we'll also get into that, how the minor releases, before the minor releases, in between the patch releases and everything, monthly cadence that is followed by the branch manager. So coming on to a cycle, let's say we are starting up with a cycle, say 1.25 or 1.26. There are feature discussions that goes on, and on features we have something called enhancements. So there are certain rules that needs to be followed to be qualified as an enhancement, and after that particular enhancement, SIGs, chairs and people of the SIGs go write a CAPE, and the CAPE is reviewed and is submitted in the enhancement repository. And you could get into Kubernetes/enhancement. I guess I have opened it here. Okay. Yeah. So you could see this is the enhancement, Kubernetes/enhancement, where all the enhancement goes. And what is important is, to know what is your enhancement, or if you are someone working as an end user and want an major feature or major upgrade, so you should come to this repo and check out what is there. So any enhancement will be followed by a blog post. Like the major enhancement that I remember at present as part of 1.25 cycle was the removal of Docker sim, and it create a large fuss. And even deprecations are also the part of enhancements and CAPEs, because you have to make people aware that something is deprecating and we are replacing it with something else. And requires multiple parties, as I said, SIGs owner. So yeah, sorry, I haven't told you about SIGs, and I'm continuously using that. So in Kubernetes upstream project, what happens is it's a large code base, and each particular SIG owns a part of the code base, and it's their duty to maintain that particular code base. Then there are working groups which don't necessarily own a code base, but are made for a suggestion, or to help with some part of that code base, but they don't necessarily own a code base. Code base is owned by SIGs, and SIGs sometimes sponsor a working group, and they collectively work on compounding the effect of some work for the SIG. So the features of enhancements releases from graduating from one stage to other. There is alpha, beta, and beta to GA. GA is generally available. So it usually takes 2 to 3 releases for major enhancement to go into GA or removal. Like I said about Docker sim removal, you must be aware if you're using enterprise Kubernetes or you're hosting it on your own. We deprecated that, and we took 3 cycles to remove it. So when a feature is deprecated, not necessarily we remove support for it, but slowly, gradually we remove it, and when we remove it, we stop with a new image or new artifact you down for that particular Kubernetes release. When it is removed, you won't get that particular feature. And then it needs significant effort changes in Kubernetes, like something that would take multiple people to implement. If you go to KEPs, and a tracking sheet of features for a KEP are present. So, and what is important is this particular paragraph, what is not an enhancement. So people usually, confuse something implemented by using a CRDs. You could write your own custom controllers and CRDs. That is not taken as an enhancement. Fixing a flaky test. Okay, so a lot of code bases we have, and every code we write, we ensure that it is test covered. And maybe a E2E test is failing, and fixing that is not something called as enhancement. Neither is refactoring code and performance improvement. So let's say we want to enhance an API operation or fast control loop, faster the control loops, or any particular let's say in SIG storage or any infrastructure based enhancement we do. If we want to improve the performance, that is not considered as an unlikely enhancement. It's just a minor change. And to give you an idea about how vast Kubernetes is, let's look into this, which I was about to show you in the beginning itself, but I forgot. So Kubernetes, when it started as a Google project, Google internal project, and folks who have been associated since the 1.12 previous versions or 1.10 previous versions are aware, like it was only few company people from Google, Red Hat, and similar kind of people contributed to it, but it was naturally hosted on Google, and now also it is hosted in a few parts of Kubernetes infrastructure is hosted in the GCP organization. We are migrating it to Kubernetes.io, and you could see a lot of processes, a lot of pipeline goes, before it goes to like the user-centric changes, which is the daily changes, and the Kubernetes release team which releases the artifact required for a particular release. Why this diagram is important, and what is the requirement for this diagram is, you could see, since there is dependency of using an internal tool from an organization, we require people from that organization to help us with the release as well. Like when we do release cuts, even GCP admins from who has access to the internal toolings come up and help us. And there is an umbrella effort going on, to help with this. And SIG Infra is working on that. More information could be, I think, yes, you could see there's a lot of works. So if you go to this umbrella issue, you could find, how we are migrating from GCP org to our own Kubernetes infrastructure. And if you are an end user or a build and release engineer who have been quite associated with this process, you are welcome to come and help us with this. Like you could see a lot of pending tasks at present. That was a part, and due to this kind of changes that is coming up, like infra changes and all, we have, the methodology changes. How do we do a particular release? So let's go on to the important part. Okay, so presently the release or the whole Kubernetes release has two parts. One is the release team, and second is the release engineering. So what is the stark difference between both of this is the release team deals with the logistics and carry wood chop water, chop wood carry water type of work, which is to make sure if the feature or the enhancement from ideation to completion goes seamlessly. The teams are aware about their deadlines. The maintainers are on track, and continuous review of KPIs and product readiness reviews that goes on, and the enhancement goes smoothly. But the release engineering is, that is one of the quite complex, and even I would say I am not aware of most of the working. I'm aware what this tool does, but I haven't ever used that, or neither many people contributing to Kubernetes would have an idea about this release engineering part, because it is not only complex, it goes on changing and changing, and you have to be very well versed to go into to be a branch manager, or to cut release branch, because you have the escalated terms of privileges that you get as part of this release engineering is very risky. As well as you need a kind of trust to build. To give you an example, I've seen people, be active for 5, 6, 7 releases, become a release lead, and then come up as a branch manager to do the release engineering work, as they have continuously, known the tools that are there. So we'll go into the tools, obviously. But before going into the tool, I will give you an idea about, how the release team looks like. Okay. So this is an old, like from 1.15 thing of the release team. I have put it here because we will discuss some things like what is enhancement, what like we discuss what is enhancement, why enhancement team is there, and all these teams that comes under as release team. Quarterly these teams put changes, and to anyone here interested to get involved in Kubernetes, I would say getting involved with the release team is the easy way. Like we have an shadow program that every time a lead is there, and he or she makes you aware about the functionalities your team will be doing, and what all things you need to be aware about. So let's start. As we saw, in the initial diagram, there are features, and then we have like PRs start coming up. We have to track the tests that are failing, and bugs that might be related to a particular feature that is scheduled to for that minor release. It needs to be tracked and followed by the people. And then when we do a release, there are documentation that needs to come up, and release notes. We generate automated release notes using Krell tool, and those release notes has to touch every major themes of the release. What are major themes? Major themes are basically any major upgradation or major deletion that is happening to the project. And then there is comms team. Comms is a good way to enter into Kubernetes and get updated with what is coming recently, and to know about the features, because we are the folks who deal with feature blocks review, make sure the feature blocks comes out in time, and the release blog. Every release you will see a blog that is posted by the Kubernetes team mentioning the no tools thing for that particular release. And we do a CNCF webinar where we discuss about enhancements and everything. So enhancement team, how does that function? Is they track all the enhancements submitted by the SIGs, and there is a particular date until which you could submit your enhancements. And then they go to the PRR or product readiness review, and it is reviewed whether they should be a go or no go. Also, it depends on the maintainer. Sometimes, people are overworked, or like people don't necessarily get time to submit it before the deadline, or maybe some other issues comes up. So once it is not submitted, the required PRs are not getting merged, the enhancement stops for the cycle. We have exception request that comes up for certain cases, but that is in case to case basis. We watch that. And CI signal, what the CI signal does, this test infra team is not present. Especially, we automated this whole thing, and it was a great work by release engineering team to automate this work. So what I will show you how this thing works. So you could see this is a, let's say we go to this is our test grid.kits.io, and it's openly available to you. So you could go and see all the E2E tests that are running at present on our fraud side, and you could see what is failing, or if something is release blocking, or etc., etc., and you could directly go and load the results. You could see the historical results and directly go to the job history and why it failed and the logs. So the major work of the CI signal team is to track those issues, flaky tests, release blocking or major tests, and report it to the team, and to get the maintainers work on that. Then we have bug triage. So bug triage also has similar roles, but it is kind of the surface level role where it tracks issues, not the test cases. So that issues, if any issue is lying out, if any issue needs help, or if some of the maintainers are not able to dedicate time to it, they just suffered that thing. How do you need to get those issues fixed and get the PR merged? Then there are branch manager that I talked of. This position I'll talk about in the later part, where I will go through what is dev and prod in Kubernetes. And release notes, as I said, there is CREL. We will talk about CREL when I go to the release tools. And yes, that's pretty much it. But patch release manager has this role has also been deprecated. Now the branch manager and release manager associates do the patch releases. Like let's say we are in 1.24 Kubernetes release cycle, and the branch manager for that particular release makes sure that the previous N-3 release patch releases happen, and the release manager associates help with that. So this patch release manager role has been deprecated now. Okay, so let's start with the most important part. So this is our dev. You have Kubernetes/Kubernetes, and when you merge a PR, the k/k build starts, and you have a CI feedback. And then this is like the K release. This is the minor release which we talk about. It happens in K release, and your K release build happens, and then there is the official release, which we see as version 1.24, version 1.2. This is the demarcation between dev and prod. And how do we go from dev to prod is, so as I was talking about in dev, each periodic and for commit basis, the build is run and the CI feedback is generated. And then this is the quarterly branching, which I was talking about. Why branch manager are important is this. This is the function of the branch manager to branch out the release branch and make sure everything. It's kind of a very manual job that is sometimes some test cases fail. Sometimes your k/k build is working, and some E2E tests that might have been written for previous releases and might not have been deleted. Or a feature has been deleted, but it's the code base is changed, but the test cases hasn't been updated accordingly, so that their issues comes up. So release manager's work is to identify what is the cause of error that comes in the logs, and then we have this. So so you could see this dev side is very much automated. Like testing is on the point testing, and here it's like the branch creation is quite manual, and the testing is the one-time testing that happens in the release build. Yep. So there is this quality feedback loop for k/k or the dev side of the thing that happens, and there is no particular quality feedback loop for the prod side, and which is work in progress for us in the release team, always to focus on that. And then how do we do it? Okay, so for k/k, you could see when there is in the dev side, we have binaries, RPMs, ZEBs, and all those things. But in when we release, do official release, there are artifacts that are available at certain places like I think it's gates.gcr.io, where we have our present artifacts placed, and we could fetch it from there. And docs that are docs, containers, devs, same as that, but docs necessarily don't get generated for the dev side. It gets generated only for the release, like the official release, minor releases. Okay, so yes, so this happens monthly, as I said, and there is publication that goes on, like the patch after a patch release. You get publications of all these things get updated in the places they are. So what is our target at present? So the whole target is, not to differentiate between the two dev and prod, but to get in alignment, like separate testing for dev and separate testing for prod is, sometimes causes an issue for us. So we now have this build, staging, and publication. That how we view the whole setup, not as the previous view that I had shown you. So in these cases, what we need is, test before staging, test after staging, and before publication, and test after publication. So some of these tests are in place, like since it's a 2019 slides, so it was like, the future of this Kubernetes release. But the feature has been materialized. Some part of it has been materialized, and the recent development was the signing. We have this SBOM signing for the publications, and this provenance that has not been done yet. That is a work in progress, and if you are someone who is interested, please do come and contribute in the SIG release. Okay, so yeah, as I said, how to get involved: issue backlog, sub projects, meetings, and release engineering. So yeah, as I said, the Gates infra, the umbrella effort which I displayed you, shifting from the internal Google infrastructure to CNCF based infrastructure, also gets mixed up with SIG release, because as we move things from internal to the external part or the community part, the method in which we do the release changes for us. So let's go into and look some of the tools we have for release. So this is where all our necessary tools lie on, like github.com/kubernetes/release. And if you could see, it's the place where where it is. This is the thing used by branch managers or anyone trying to pull out a release or release related automation. Everything lies on this. So yeah, we have tools for specific things. Release management. So we have Krell for the release management. As I said, the docs team used Krell when I mentioned about the docs team, and this Krell tool basically helps you automatically generate docs and okay, let's okay, let's go. Yeah. So yes, this is the Krell.go, and it has a mock. This is the mock file you need to execute before executing Krell, and then this is the code base of Krell that helps you to generate release notes basically. So you could go and see everything is available. And what is most beautiful about these release tools is this is not only Kubernetes centric. The way or the methods that have been adapted to develop this could be used by your organization, or if you're someone involved with your CI/CD pipeline or something, and you think these tools could help you, you could fork it and use it for you. Obviously, there are contributor documentation that are available for each of these tools, and you could go ahead and use that. So schedule builder, it's generate the markdown like when the release, this is the timelines for the patch release, cherry pick, and everything. So this is also automated, and and even the release cycle schedule, everything gets generated by this schedule builder tool. And then we have the artifact management. Okay, artifact management. K promo is, it like, you could see it's a status in progress. It's not yet like implemented, and even for schedule builder. But schedule builder we are using at present for some of the things, but it's not completely done. And for K promo, it's the promotional tools. You could go into the CMD files, and you could see what, yep, how the files are released, and these are basically the Golang scripts which helps us to generate the artifacts for a particular release. And then there are Q package for dev and RPM package, and this is what I was talking about, build of materials. This was a very important milestone for us, to get the thing signed up, and this is a tool that was generating the bill of materials for the project. And this being very recent, the way we have developed it is, for anyone with any kind of software releases you could use it. And especially if it's a cloud native kind of thing, this would make much sense for your use cases. And not only you have the installation and everything, you also get an developer documentation where you could come and contribute to it. And there are certain issues that goes on, and these are the features that are yet to come up. And since I've been following this thing for quite a close time, and I really enjoy how we started up with the BOM. And 2019, as I said in that slide, it was just in proposal, and now we have it built for our users. And then this release notes, this helps us to scrape GitHub pull request for the release notes. Actually, what happens is, whenever you put a PR that is related to a particular enhancement, and it is getting tracked, you get a in the PR template, you get, like, you have to write the release note or the single line description of what does this thing do. And this Kubernetes release notes generator just scrapes those things and puts it in a documentation format, and that comes up, and that is released as a release note for everyone else. And then this is the GC builder. I think it is for the cloud build admin. Since I am not aware about that part of the documentation, so I like that part of the Kubernetes release, I can't really say much about it. And publish release also does, like, it announces the software releases, so updating the release page on GitHub based on templates. And there is a release page we have, like cadence.dev / release notes, as well as cadence.io/release. What I'm talking about is this cadence.io/release. This is the page that is also automatically updated by that tool. And these were the tools that we previously used, like postbuild.sh and Rapture. These have been deprecated now, but these are, like, as you could see, Rapture is an experimental, and it's used somewhere, but yeah, again, these are Googlers participating in releases, and release managers are the people who could give you more idea about it. As I said, I am not even aware about these tools, at what places they are used. And then yes, these all documentation you see, these are all system generated. Like we don't go and write these things. These are all generated and put it in a single place. And the tools we talked about help to generate all these particular things. So I was talking about, yes. So this is a very important thing for end user perspective. Some of you might be an end user, and people usually get confused, and I have seen frustrated users coming up and saying, why don't you support this? So this is the place where you should, I think it is already available in our docs. Yes, it's available in the docs, but I have to read it in the GitHub because of this dark thing. We don't have it supported in the website yet properly. So the cadence, as I have talked about, on a typical release cadence is monthly. Monthly we do a release. The 1 or 2 weeks for the earliest patch release. Like supposedly we had a release and we see some updates that needs to come up, like 1.24 just released, and we need to do some hotfix or something. Those kind of patch releases comes up in an early release cycle. Then critical bug fixes. If there is critical, as I said, CVEs or bug fixes that comes up that outside of the normal cadence, we do a major part of the release. And yes, release managers are the people to get a more detail on that. And then there is cherry picks. Sometimes you need to go through the cherry picks. For the cherry picks, I had a good documentation. Yes. So this is a part, like how do we do the branch management for release, like from master to release 1 point. So this is the release branch, and this is the normal branch we have for a particular recycle in case last case. So this branch of sync happens, and it goes to the branch are manually taken from one by one periodically, and then this release branch is made, and then there is something called code thaw. There is also a beautiful documentation on that. I'll go through that. Okay, sorry, just one. Yeah, so this is very important, the support period. As I said, it is 14 months. First 12 months of this time frame is considered the standard. Towards the end of 12 months, release managers cut a release, the patch release series will enter the maintenance mode. Okay, and these are the three important things that we still maintain. A release manager, additional maintenance release happens in the last 2 months, like CVEs or dependency issues or critical core component issues. And even after the end of 2 month maintenance period, the patch considered as end of life and cherry picks to the associate branch will be closed. Like there would be no cherry picks for that particular release anymore. Okay. Yeah. So this is the technical terminologies that we see behind a release. Like these are the things that people need to be aware of while being a part of release cycle, or if you're someone watching it from outside. There are enhancements, as I talked about. There are enhancement freeze that happens, and like including testing plans, graduation criteria, everything needs to be at place with the KEP, and that's where enhancement freeze happens. And if your enhancement doesn't meet these requirements, it is removed from the milestone. Then there is something we term used for burn down. So the burn down is something called meetings that happens weeks prior to code freeze with increased cadence. Why? Because there are outstanding issues and PRs that needs to active attention from the release team, and have maintainers pinpointed to that place to do the work. So Kubernetes release calendar is a great place to get an idea about all these things. And code freeze, yeah, this is something. If you are a maintainer, or if you see a maintainer during a code freeze, it's quite busy for every one of us, because the code must be complete, including the tests. Tests, we focus much on tests because there was a scenario that came up in Kubernetes, where people come and contribute code but don't necessarily write the tests. And when we want to merge it in the build, there were dependency issues that comes up, and the person that was contributing that feature might not be an active contributor at that point of time, and we have to trace again. So we have made some improvements regarding this, so that's why it's bold out here for the improvement of this test coverage. So at this point, only release blocking issues and PR within the milestone are allowed to be merged. After code freeze, nothing happens. Okay, like only people work with tests. The test can be changed, like, or promoted to conformance. And once this test freeze happens, it's the time for the thaw. So thaw specifies both the code phase and test phase. At this point, it is expected all outstanding PRs for the release of Kubernetes has been merged to the release branch. So yeah, so this is how the thing looks like. It's a code freeze in between test freeze, PRs with approver LGT. So why this particular thing is important is sometimes though the code is prepared, the code is reviewed, the code has been given approve or LGT, and there are sometimes hold, or sometimes it takes time for the code to get merged. And if we have 12 PM as a deadline, 12 m as a deadline, the code tries to merge in 12.1m, and we don't allow. That would be a problem because that's a hard stop for everyone. So only these two labels are allowed. Sometimes people use old also to get some more eyes on that, and but with prior approved and LG team labels before the code. And then there are PR exceptions. If one or two PRs that hasn't been merged, or if one or two PRs need some more review, or some more contextual discussion is going on, those exceptions come up, and that is dealt case to case basis. We can't allow a lot of exceptions because it is really difficult for the branch managers to pull out things. Then we cherry pick if sometimes cherry picks exists, and we cherry pick that whole thing into the release. And then thaw is, it's after thaw you could see the master branch develops towards the next minor release. So once the thaw is there, another release, from the branch perspective or the Kubernetes the Git tree perspective, we start with a new release branch. And exceptions, yes, as you said, there are certain rules of exceptions. Yeah, why we need an exception, in what case, and how. So this is typically important for upstream developers. And then there are pawning and docs. Yes, if an enhancement need documentation, and they enter yes in the tracking script sheet, and then there are open documentation in the Kubernetes website repository to assist with the docs. So there is a major confusion sometimes with among the upstream devs as well as with the end users. What is the difference between docs and blogs? So docs are the cadence.io. If you go to the website, yeah, it's okay. Okay, it's the cadence.dev. So in cadence.io, you see there are two things. There are documentation as well, there are blogs. So if you're changing a feature, that could change the way you set up a Kubernetes cluster, or some of the tasks we have here, how to administer a cluster, or this part, like when we migrating from Docker scene, we included in the documentation as well with the blog. So you could see this doesn't have any author names here, because it is it's a documentation, and you only have that modified, or by like the last PR that modified it. So it is a step-by-step guide, or the standard procedure that needs to be followed for everyone to do that. And if there is a process change in the like your feature or your enhancement is doing a standard procedure change, you need to update the docs as well. Like you see for Docker Shim, we have this documentation, as well as if you go to Kubernetes blog and type here Docker Shim, we will have a lot of things. Yep. No, yeah. So see, it's a blog, Docker Sim deprecation, FAQs, and all those things. So this is a blog, and okay, there's a new version. So this is a new version of the blog, and this is considered as a blog because it doesn't necessarily tell you a step-by-step process. Or we had this historical context of this Kubernetes removal. So yeah, that's pretty much it about Kubernetes release cycle. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take it. Or like I think I have covered pretty much everything. But one important thing or important information that I want to tell people, or why I spend time in this kind of meetups, is there is always a crunch of people as maintainers. In Kubernetes, we get new contributors, but very few people cross the threshold from a new contributor to becoming a maintainer, and that's a huge problem we face as a community. And sometimes people are overworked, people get burnt out. But now processes are more aligned towards automation, so people don't get burnt out. I think Humble must be aware about folks who were active during this time of contributions, who have written very key parts of it but are not any active member. So some obviously personal preferences people go away, but there are people who are important who could want out due to the process being very exhausting. So it's a welcome for everyone to come and get involved with the release process, and you could implement these things in your or for your day-to-day use cases. So yeah, that's it from my side regarding the deep dive. And also, these all talks are awesome. You could just go to YouTube and search for SIG release deep dive. Every KubeCon there is a SIG release deep dive, but not necessarily the whole thing about release engineering and releasing, because that takes up a lot of time. So part of, let's say, some improvement this time, I think Pyoko and Carlos had a talk on the BOM bill of materials we developed, and how you could come and contribute and how it could be adapted to any environment. And even the prow bot we use for the daily CI builds could be used by your dev side build if you're in GitHub, or I don't know if it supports GitLab or Bitbucket, because as I remember from the talk from Navarun, it could be used by anyone outside of Kubernetes as well. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for being very patient and listening to all through this.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, so Deb, just to add a few points here, right? As you said, the release process has been improved a lot over the years, and I have been experiencing that, and it has become really great. And I'm sure that more things are coming in. But compared to the previous years or previous releases, it's been automated a lot and pretty much making it easy. And also, the segregation of the PR reviews and things like that by automated boards. Yeah, lucky to have you here and discussing about this topic. And thanks a lot, Deb. It was a great talk about Kubernetes release, which is very important and critical for everyone who is associated with the project. So let me ask the audience any other questions on this process or anything related to the Kubernetes project in general.
Just one question on the development process, right? You mentioned about the team structure and so on. I mean, at least listed the team structure, right, in one of the slides. So does the security SIG also actively participate in the development process?
Yep, they do participate a lot. I think there are certain security. This being in 2019, the doc hasn't been updated with this, but now this contains some security-related checks as well. I think this was the first release after 1.25. We had Mo and Puskar coming up with some security-related updates for our SIG. So yeah, SIG security is pretty much or very much involved. Like since 1.25 or 2.4 release, they have been given a great preference. I think Humble would be able to discuss more as he had a KEP that got merged, I think, in the last cycle as well.
Yeah, they are involved very much in the process right now. Yeah. Anything specifically you want to ask, Ranjish?
Yeah, so in addition to the feature review, right? So feature testing and code review on the features, I'm assuming then that the security team would also be reviewing on whether the code has been written correctly in terms of avoiding any security loopholes, and are you also running some tests in there, like using SAST or DAST kind of processes, or is it more of a manual review? Like static code analysis and all of those things are done, or?
That's to check actually. Even I'm not sure about the SIG release.
The reason why I'm asking is because the whole idea of SBOM, which has come in now, is because
yes.
There is a major concern on supply chain security. While of course there's an argument as to whether that should be done by the open source community or should it be done by the consumers, right? Still, I think to some extent, obviously, the open source community can take some responsibility. So SBOM is definitely a welcome step. Also there are other stuff like attestations, adding attestations, or even image signing and so on. I'm assuming that those things will slowly come in, but fundamentally on the code, even without doing all these things, right? So fundamentally on the code, because while we say that there are open source is the safest because there is so much of eyeballs and so on. Essentially, during the development process, is it just the developers who look at the feature fulfillment, or is there specifically best practices applied to say that okay, probably we are taking a wrong not a clean library, or maybe exposing data in a wrong way, something like that, right?
Right. Mainly, about the SIG you are contributing, right? At the same time, the SIG approvers or the maintainers also have a good eye on the code you are submitting, and sometimes they even ask you to reach out to the other SIG. For example, maybe a collaboration between the SIGs, and present to them and get their feedback, and inviting them for the PR reviews and things like that happens. So it's, that's why we have very experienced people in the maintenance side and the approval side, those who can actually educate you, or maybe get other people visibility from other SIGs, and there are close working between the SIGs on the working group model, and you have to submit some features, like you have to submit a presentation to the other SIGs and get their opinion, and so this is throughout involved in the process of getting a feature in Kubernetes, starting from the design, starting from the code review, and starting from the approval. And also when the code touches different part of the SIG, basically you have to get approval from that. For example, if I'm making a feature for SIG storage, even though that is in the SIG storage area, but then the code can lie into the kubelet and the other part of the code base, right? So we have to get an approval from that owners, that particular folder, or that that part of the area of the code, right? From that approvers, we have to get an approval and LGTM for getting that merged in the Kubernetes code base. And all over the process, there is a security auditing available. And I'm not sure about the exact automated process we have, but at the same time, you do see that many CVs and vulnerabilities getting fixed in between. So that communication goes in a closed loop. So the security aspect of things taken care in the Kubernetes. And if you have something really specific, maybe take into the Slack and get discussed.
Yeah. Also, the manual thing, we have something called PRR reviewers, product readiness review. That is a very experienced person who comes with I think more than 10 releases, like DEDs and all. They have many experience, so they manually go through the code and they submit an approval. If they don't submit, it's not going through that. So yeah, there is a manual watch as well.
Okay.
This.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? If not, I think I can stop recording.